we improved the power delivery system of this 250 amp card with a 7-phase switching power supply. The current that we deliver is lightning fast, and it's really, really stable. And the second thing that we did was we improved the cooler so that we can now have twice as much surface area, tight necks, 20%. Isn't that amazing, guys?
After dropping a Titan X and then a 1080 Ti, NVIDIA decided in April of 2017 to release another Titan called the Titan XP. And to this day, this is the fastest GeForce GTX card ever made. As this card's about to enter second grade, being 7 years old, it is probably time to repaste it before we test it to give it its best opportunity. And with that said, I wanted to discuss why I'm actually showing you guys the performance of this card. So locally, I picked this up for $100. My friend Min drove out and grabbed it for me. Thank you, Min. And this card for $100 is such a good deal. I have seen some sold listings in the US market for around $150, but do be careful because there are two different types of this card again. There's the original Titan X Pascal, like this one here, and then there's the Titan XP. Most of the XP ones will be closer to $200, but there are a few that have been sold for less than that. So just keep your eyes out if you're looking for one. Gamers Nexus has a pretty good breakdown on this card and cards like the 1080 Ti. They're pretty much all the same. There's about 16 screws on the backside. It's pretty simple if you've ever done this before. To go over the specs of this card, it has 3,584 CUDA cores, it has 96 ROPs or ROPs, 12 gigs of GDDR5X with a 384-bit bus. And this again is on the Pascal architecture. It's the same as the GTX 10 series. Tech PowerUp actually has this card sitting around a 7600, RX 7600. I don't completely believe that, and we're going to see that in a little bit. Also, DLSS does not work, and FSR is good in some games, but also has a negative effect in other games. And I'm going to show you all this very shortly. Many of you will already know this, but make sure you do use DDU or Display Driver Uninstaller to get rid of your old drivers during the process of swapping your cards. Now it's time to get rid of this old, terrible RTX 4090 because the 50 series is out now, which means everything else is obsolete. So yeah, let's pull this piece of garbage out of here and look at the new build. So before I get into the benchmarks, I oftentimes will throw in a little bit of professional stuff, and I usually do it at the end, but I just wanted to mention how good of an experience this has been on Davinci Resolve. Right now, all of these files here for this video that you're watching I'm pretty much doing the whole entire video on this card. And all these files up here are 4K files, like this for an example here. And there's really no issue or stuttering, and I'm not running what's called proxies, which means I'm lowering the resolution. I'm just running this straight up 4K, and the 12 gigs of RAM on this card is handling it very well. Let's get on to games. Starting out with Black Ops 6, I originally tried 1440p and it was just too bad performance-wise, so I dropped it to 1080p, mixture of low, medium settings, and it's pretty blurry. It does play, you can play it. I was getting an average of anywhere from 60 to 70 FPS, but yeah, 1080p was kind of hard to run. I tried FSR 1, and FSR 1 actually lowers the frame rate. So I then tried FSR 3, which really didn't help at all. It just brought tons and tons of latency right here. I could barely even shoot. I was trying really hard to even aim, and it's like impossible. So I figured I would just jump into the regular benchmark, keep the exact same settings, and try FSR 1 on versus off. And to my surprise, for whatever reason, this game runs way better just at native resolution. Something about enabling FSR or any of the scalers, even the Intel XeSS scaler, still drops the frame rate. So I don't know if it's an issue just with this card in particular or the 10 series and this game, but it's just something to keep noted. So the best settings I could find for this game to run are absolutely no upscalers. Just use the simple native resolution of 1080p, all of these settings low. You don't have to have the texture on the very lowest. You can actually just run it on low or even normal depending on the map, because some of the maps fluctuate in frame rate a little bit. But yeah, that's pretty much the best way to play this game, and you're going to average anywhere from 60 to 80 FPS. When Cyberpunk first started, it auto-set itself to the psycho or highest possible settings at 1080p, and that performance was pretty lackluster. I dropped everything down to the medium preset with high texture details, and this is much better. On the left, you have no FSR, and it's running pretty good, 65-70 FPS, and on the right, we have FSR 2.1. And this is the way to play this. 1080p if you want a higher frame rate. As you can see, it's jumping up to 125, 130. If you want a better visual experience, 1440p, which is what I like, is really, really doable with FSR 2.1. You will sometimes drop down into like the high 50s, but overall, it's very, very playable. The visuals are really beautiful, as you can tell over here. Just like zooming in on some stuff, there's no terrible artifacting or weird looks, ghosting going on. So yeah, this is the best way to play it. I did try FSR 3 and the performance is not that good, and there's a lot of latency feeling to it, so I wouldn't suggest that just yet. I'm not sure, again, if it's this card in particular having problems. You might have a better time with like an RTX card or a newer AMD card with FSR 3, but right now this is the best settings. 1440p, the medium settings with high detail, and FSR 2.1. From the creators of Ubisoft, one of the least liked companies in 2025, this is Far Cry 6 and FSR on and off at 1080p high settings. I'm going to show you in a minute here that I suggest you run this at 1440p instead of 1080p. The performance difference isn't that much. If you want a higher frame rate, your best bet is to run 1440p and drop the settings down. I'm currently running high with FSR on at 1440p. It's a pretty good experience, and overall, I'm enjoying it. For most people who want like a more twitchy shooter experience, you can drop the shadows down to medium and the rest down to low. Other than that, there is one thing I have to mention. The gameplay here looks good on the screen visually, but on my end, there's added latency, and it's due to the recording of OBS running in the background and a few other things. And one problem that this game's benchmark has that I didn't realize until recently is that when you drop the settings, if you drop the resolution, you have to run borderless mode, and you cannot change the hertz up to 144, 75, 100, whatever your screen is. So it's locked at 60, and there's a little bit of input lag that I can feel. But the second I stop recording and I just do it without recording, it feels amazing. So 1440p, high or medium settings, that's how to play this game, and yeah. So I tried looking for Hardware Unbox original benchmark suite of this actual card, but unfortunately there's only people like Iceberg Tech today that are testing it, or Batman himself, Optimum Tech, who also did a video on this card recently. Due to the price coming down so much, I think there are a lot of people suggesting it more and more as time goes on, so pretty cool. So before I end this video, I just wanted to kind of go over the experience overall. I know it's on a ton of benchmarks, but again, I kind of forgot that the 4090 wasn't in there, and this is not from like a game performance aspect. This is just work related, like what I'm doing here in Davinci. There were a few times when I was doing like I was adding effects to the video where things would stutter, but as you can see, this is a pretty it's not like a crazy timeline, but there's a lot of things going on in it. It's not a simple timeline, and there's really no issue running through this. This is a pretty decent experience. So if you're looking to do like professional stuff and you want like maybe a little editing rig on the side, this will still handle it in today's date, even though it's not like the craziest thing of all time. The other thing to remember too is it does get hot. This thing runs at like 83C all the time. It is kind of on the loud side. It is a blower, so it would be good for like a small form factor system like an SSF or SFF PC case. Yeah, anyway, that's gonna do it for the video. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.